So in the past, heck, now in the present also, when I'm trying to learn something new, I've always reverted back to the things that I find simple, or basically what we like to call selective learning. And there might be like five strategies, five type of mindsets, or whatever that is. And I obviously relate to one of them, and that will be all art practice. I keep continuing to do the same type of interleaving methods, like teaching an imaginary student, like I am now. But when it comes to doing past year papers, which whether it's the direct method or the extended method, I'll find it difficult, or there'd be so much resistance, I wouldn't even be able to start. And so I'll only do one type of interleaving, and of course the results are quite subpar. Better than nothing, but it could have been better if I've integrated the other types of methods that I should be facing. And this is a huge issue if we only care about the parts where we are strong at and try to, get better at that one part of it. And we completely ignore or leave it to the end for the parts where we are clearly weaker at. And so our revision would just consist of us spending 80% of our time finding one or two mistakes in our strong parts and completely neglecting or only covering a bit of the weak parts where there's so many things that we could fix. So much return on investment if we try to work on these first. And since I'm also doing it, it came to the question, why on earth would I waste my time doing such things even though I'm also spending the same amount of time learning? Like, wouldn't it make more sense to learn the parts that we are weak at so that we can get more marks? And it probably comes down to fear, and we don't want to get like negative feedback because every time we work on something we are weak at, all we're gonna make is mistakes, and we don't want that, right? Even though mistakes are a great way to move forward, we don't want to feel the pain of getting it wrong when in fact it's unavoidable to face the pain when we want to improve on a new skill. And so what we have to do is to face the pain right in the eyes and just try it, just do the method. Just take the first step and attempt it because there's no way we would perfect it in the first try unless we are gifted, unfortunately. And we need to stop seeing these mistakes as a sign that we are failing. Rather, it is a sign that we are making progress. And it's not whether you will make mistakes or not. It's when you make these mistakes. Because it's we are bound to make different types of mistakes, even in trying to execute the same method. There are simply too many nuances to be explained in a theory video, and therefore we have to practice it, reflect on it, using Cope cycles or marginal gains, ask for feedback, and then repeat experiment over and over again. And that is how we remove these mistakes that we tend to make. And only when we make less or none of these mistakes we tend to make, then we have gotten a decent competency in these strategies. And you might be thinking, maybe this strategy isn't for me, you know? Maybe I should go back to rereading my notes, rewriting them or highlighting them because it's what feels easy for me. But you gotta remember that the goal of this whatever learning session you're doing is not to have 5 hours of studying. It's rather how much information is retained in your brain before the exam or whatever event you need to use it at. It's not the number of pages you read. It's not the number of hours you study, but rather the amount of information that you can manipulate and apply it to the scenarios that require it, whether it's exam papers or maybe teaching it to another person. And so, to highlight another point, to perhaps convince you that you are good enough to do this and it just takes time practice. And what I'll tell my younger self is probably the story of Joe and his coding system. So it's story time now. So Joe works a 9 to 5 job. He fucking hates it. And he wanted to start his own software company. So he decided, one day he'll come back from work and he will start learning Python or some coding shit. And obviously that will help him to work towards his coding company that he'll one day open and screw this shit. No more 9 to 5, okay? But what happens? Joe comes home. Okay, he looks drunk. Never mind. He's not drunk yet. Joe comes home. And he's supposed to learn Python. But, his brain tells him, or whatever his supposedly logical thoughts tell him, you've worked hard for this week. Why not just go and have fun, Go out drinking with your friends. And Joe thinks, this is a logical part of myself. And it's telling me that I am deserving of this break. And so Joe goes and drinks. And the funny thing is, the justification to drink with his friends, it's not even justified because his friends aren't even there to begin with. And then Joe starts drinking, right? And his brain just goes bonkers, like he's not even there anymore. And then he sees a hot chick. And he's like, you know what? It'd be great if I had a girlfriend. And so he went over to buy bottle service because he feels that he's supposed to do that. He's basing his actions off his feelings and logical thoughts, which at this point you can see it doesn't make any fucking sense. And then in the middle of the night, as he was drinking, someone walked past him and bumped into him. That's pretty normal. But Joe at this point was drunk as hell, and he feels some sort of agitation, because why the hell not? And he starts punching the guy. So it's midnight right now. And Joe is drunk, lost all his money, and he's literally he got punched in the face back, of course, when Joe was supposed to be learning Python at home. Okay. Yeah, he was supposed to be here. So you must be wondering, how the hell did Joe end up here? Like, you might see Joe's story and it seems retarded, right? Like, oh, I wouldn't be in this situation. But in some way, we all have been in this situation. Heck, right now, you might be in this situation too. So this is you. And you've signed up for this course. Whether, I don't know how the hell you're here, but thank you. And your logical feelings, your logical thoughts are telling you that you are not able to do it. And this whole thing is a waste of time. And then your feelings reinforce that, this thing, yeah, it feels difficult. Even though it's supposedly desirable difficulty. And you're like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't just practice these methods since I'm not good at it the first time, as if anyone would be. And therefore, I should just quit. Or just, watch the theory and don't do any practice. Which is the worst plan, because you feel like you made progress. But in fact, only when you practice and you find out these mistakes and nuances for yourself would you be able to actually use these methods and learn better, which I had to learn the hard way. So I do not wish for anyone to go through the same shit. And you got to remember, this is you, and you are the one who wanted to learn how to learn more efficiently. And you wanted to develop this skill so that you wouldn't have to suffer and study 12 hours a day and still fail your exams. Like, I've been there before. And you might have been there before and been demoralized and think that, this is not for me. But you've got to try and experiment with the interleaving methods. And so it will take a lot of time. It's just like you wouldn't expect someone who just knows basketball theory and go onto the field and like ace this whole shit. But you would expect the person to be absolutely garbage at the start when he starts practicing. And it does not matter how much theory this person knows. Because practice is like the only way you can see where your skill actually lies in. And it's the same for this learning thing, where the theory will give you some sort of confidence, heck, overconfidence that you can execute it. But if you never try it and practice and get feedback, practice, reflect, get feedback, and all this shit, you wouldn't be able to gauge how well you do it. And when the time comes for you to actually do it, you will face so many problems because you didn't fix the mistakes that you would have made during the practice sessions. And so you've got to be patient. Take it as like any other skill, whether it's playing piano, basketball, football, whatever it is. You wouldn't expect yourself to be excellent in the first few tries. Heck, you would like be shocked you could be competent or even decently competent after a month or two. And so we should just not panic and trust in the process. But the process involves the practice. And I cannot stress that enough. With that, just check out some of the interleaving methods and, just try some of them. And if you're unsure of anything, just ask for feedback. and practice again and again. With that, good luck.